Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with another Total War Warhammer 2 online battle, and we're gonna immediately be jumping into it because, of course, we've got Greenskins versus Beastmen, which means all sorts of Vanguard shenanigans, so I'm gonna quickly pop it in pause here as we go over the armies, and then we'll get straight to the action. You can see both of us had the same idea, sort of breaking our army up into a few different groups. I've got a group here of Centaurs with throwing axes, regular Centaurs, we've got Razorgore Herd, and some Ungor Spearman Herd. For my opponent, he's got nasty Skulkers, Moon Howlers, Force Goblin Spider Riders, and a unit of Orc Biggins. His center group is going to consist of 2 Black Orcs, 2 Night Goblins. Azag the Slaughter is going to be up in the air, nice and mobile, can sort of go to any part of the battle. He's got some Skirmish Cav up front as well, Wolf Rider Archers, and Magi Marauders. We've got more Biggins over here supporting this group, which is more Spider Riders, Skulkers, and A-Peak Loonies. We've also got, from my group here, the mirror of the other side, Centaurs with throwing axes, regular Centaurs, Spearman Herd, and Razorgore Herd. We actually have a second group of Spearman Herd here, and my center group is going to be the CYGOR, Regiment of Renown, of course. I have Morsley. We've also got the Butchers of Kalkengard, and the Ungor Spearman Herd, with a Brace Shaman Lord of Death and a Beast Lord both on foot. Brace Shaman's got, Spirit Leech and Purple Sun. So yeah, right off the bat, I did miss the initial charge, but you can imagine what happened here. Beastmen and Greenskins just getting right straight to it. Both factions like a good fight here, and the Greenskins player a little bit late on the wah, unfortunately. My opponent here probably wanted to pop that immediately, but at the same time, you know, it's definitely a bang-up scenario, as they like to say in American football. Yeah, you can see, unfortunately for the Greenskins, a lot of these units routed here before the Orc Biggins could get into support, but Azag's also coming in, so he should be able to stabilize this here. I'm going to go ahead and pull back my Centaurs with throwing axes. Meanwhile, the Magi Marauders got a little bit too close, got caught by that Warp Gaze there, and took a beating. A little bit of a beating, that is. At least one rock from the Eye of Morsley. I'm going to go ahead and pull that back, as, again, we're pulling over these Centaurs with throwing axes to go after... Oh, one of these units is actually the Crimson Killers. Holy cow. Crimson Killers, definitely excited for the buff they're going to be getting in the next patch, where they should be on par with other units of Black Orcs in terms of their model count. It's definitely one of the weaker aspects of them, and you can see how my opponent's in a little bit of a column formation here. This is very bound to happen on this map because there's a lot of terrain blockages, so getting a cohesive line with like 2 or more units can be potentially very tough. So I'm pretty sure what happened was my opponent just kind of grabbed them, and, you know, same thing I do is click and drag. But with multiple units on this particular map, it can be very tricky. This is actually Marbad's Tomb. For those of you who are curious, one of my favorite maps. You can see I did lose the fight over on this left side, so I'm going to be setting up these reserve Ungor Spearmen to just kind of block up this pass right here and sort of be annoying in that way. Meanwhile, Butchers of Kalkengard and the Ungor Spearman Herd trying to push forward and establish some space in between the CYGOR. You can see the CYGOR is going to be kind of standing in the pocket. More American football terms. So for those of you who don't watch American football, you know, might live in you know, Canada, Australia, or maybe somewhere in Europe, or, you know, wherever you're watching from, glad to have you, first of all. But in American football, you know, you have the quarterback who, on offensive plays, his job is to pass the ball or hand it off to someone else to run, right? Right here, the CYGOR is sort of acting as a quarterback, obviously throwing rocks at my opponent, but I'm trying to just set up a pocket here so that my opponent's force can't get back into it, both using the terrain here and obviously these different kind of functional groups. You can see as my opponent starts to push back, I'm going to start to run out of answers, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about a unit of Spider Riders. We should be able to terrify them away relatively quickly here, depending on some certain things, but looks like Azag dropping that Soul Blight in there, debuffing these troops a little bit, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of armor to pull away there. The weapon damage debuff will help a little bit as well, but just in general, those Crimson Killers have gotten roughed up pretty bad. We're also going to come over here and go after the Black Orcs. Of course, Butchers of Kalkengard, with their 60 melee defense and regeneration, going to be very tough to take down. They still have all 12 unit models as well, so all of them are going to be regenerating as it is. And we've also got these throwing axes in a good position to kind of respond there. My opponent's doing a good job, though, chewing away at the flanks with these Wolf Rider archers, getting some very cost-effective work done. They've used up pretty much all of their ammo shooting at least this group, shooting at these Centaurs with throwing axes, so definitely some good play there, very cost-effective use of those boys there, but unfortunately a lot of value being lost out in the Greenskins infantry. You can see I was going to throw down a Purple Sun, but Azag very nicely came down and interrupted my Bray Shaman. Bray Shaman and the Beast Lord have come up and got involved with these Spider Riders here. And of course I've been throwing down Spirit Leeches on Azag whenever he gets close enough. It does have a relatively short cast range, and I'm not too enthusiastic about overcasting it just because I'm worried about miscast damaging my Bray Shaman. Doesn't have too much HP, but you can see little Zappy over there in the corner, who I hadn't even noticed earlier. It's probably going to pop a magic missile here. Yep. Oh man, just absolutely brutal. Azag follows up with a nice charge here, and you can see that Bray Shaman's all of a sudden in a world of hurt, just taking about a third of his HP in damage, but do manage to get a Spirit Leech in response there, so Azag should be sent packing with that. And yeah, Greenskins without their leadership, of course, not going to hold up too well. We still have quite a few Orc Biggins here who can do some good damage, but the Butchers of Kalkengard, because of their terror, and again, just 60 melee defense, regeneration, they're such a strong unit in this matchup, and in a multitude of matchups, I would say. We are actually going to get a Purple Sun here. Unfortunately, did not get the best contact, but yeah, also kind of went in the opposite direction of what I was hoping. I was hoping it would kind of come back this way, but oh well, such is life. Purple Suns are finicky, and I take them more because they're fun. Obviously, Purple Sun's not going to be as reliable as something like Fate of Buna, but I think Fate of Buna is just a little bit boring personally, so I tend not to bring it, but very nice, what is that? Vindictive Glare. I always forget the name of that one despite the fact that I use it all the time, but yeah, unfortunately the Greenskins just taken too many losses up to this point. Done a reasonable job in taking down some units, but the Butchers of Kalkengard and the Eye of Morslib still being so healthy is definitely going to be a problem in this late game here, so I believe at this point we just have these Unbreakable Night Goblins, yep. So we're going to go ahead and collapse everything here, and yeah, very fun battle, well played to my opponent. It's definitely a matchup that is pretty even. I would say that the Beastmen have a better time in this matchup than, say, Norska does, just because they can, number one, kite a little bit more effectively. Centaurs with throwing axes are just a little bit better than Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, and just in general, you know, you have the Eye of Morslib, which is a super powerful artillery piece. Really just destroys armored infantry, or infantry of any kind for that matter. So of course the Greenskins tending to favor a lot of infantry, very effective here. Likewise the Butchers of Kalkengard, very effective unit. I mean, Famir do okay against the Greenskins. I know I'm kind of comparing Beastmen and Norska a little bit here before I've even done the army breakdown, but nonetheless, yeah, there are some comparisons to be drawn. But just in general, Butchers of Kalkengard, again, that I was going to say it for a third time, that high melee defense, that regeneration, the fear and terror just makes them so good in this matchup. Always bring them in this matchup, I would say. And in general, we had some other units get some good work done here. Razorgore Herd, actually pretty cost effective. I haven't used them too much lately, but in supporting those Centaurs there, they were actually able to get some really good work done, help clean up those nasty Skulkers pretty much immediately, do a lot of damage to the Night Goblins that were out on those flanks as well. So, you know, definitely very cost effective Sioux Pigs here, and definitely glad I brought them. Gonna have to experiment with them a little bit more. Centaurs with throwing axes, of course, always a staple. Didn't do a whole lot of damage in terms of unit damage. Some of them getting some okay kills, but doing a lot of damage to Azag as well. Of course, the Bray Shaman helping out with that. Beast Lord racking up 45 kills in melee, not too bad. And the Centaurs also helped clean up the flanks a little bit as well. Of course, the left side, not so well. You can see the right side here, 85 and 27. Versus 26 and 37 rather. So yeah, you can see there the difference. The right side definitely won out pretty hard, but overall, very fun battle, well played to my opponent. In terms of this matchup from the Greenskins side, not too much to say about this particular build. It's pretty solid. Personally, I would probably cut the Crimson Killers and the other Black Orcs down and just bring more Biggins. Biggins will even trade reasonably well against CYGOR, especially with the buffs you have access to. So, in general, you know, the Biggins with their anti-large, they can just cut through Minotaurs, other large units a little bit better. They'll do okay. Butchers of Kalkengard are still just going to be such a tough unit to take down. I might also say more missiles would probably be decent if you were to take like some Night Goblin archers on foot, potentially to help deal with the butchers as well, or you know, more skirmish cav. I think he might have been at his cap there. But yeah, it's an interesting matchup, certainly, Beastmen versus Greenskins. Both very heads-up factions, very aggressive, and also both can kite very well. Both have very good missile cav, but just in general, I would say again, for the Beastmen side, these two high-tier regiments of renown are going to be very good in this matchup. Other units, of course, we already kind of went over, but Morker is probably going to be the staple in most competitive play. I just wanted to go super cheap in terms of my leadership, so I had a Beast Lord with nothing on him, which is only 850, very, very cheap, and then the Brave Shaman, of course, was very cheap as well, in order to optimize the rest of my army, because my plan was just to stand them in the forest, basically, for as long as possible and not really engage too much there, so yeah, we basically more or less had that loadout for the core of the army, and then you can kind of build around that. From the Greenskin side, actually, Grimgor might not be terrible here, just because he can kind of get in and mess up whatever the Beastman stuff he can catch in melee, which eventually is going to be something. Night Goblin Warboss also might not be terrible if you can catch somebody out with, if you go with the heavy missile build, you can catch somebody out with that Tormentor Sword and really just gun them down, so to speak. I know there's no actual guns involved, but here, just bear with me. Wurzag also pretty solid as well, of course. FG to Git is going to be a staple to catch out units again, and his support buffs in general are really going to juice up the Greenskin units to just be able to run over most Beastmen units. So yeah, of course you take Brain Burst is not too bad for busting up light Beastmen units. Also helps proc that Bonewood Staff, of course, which is going to be very essential. Definitely recommend both items. Foot of Gork, not so much. Here we go. It's relatively expensive, but it can be decent. I would definitely say Fists of Gork and Brain Burst for sure. And then maybe Here we go if you're feeling that as well. If you want a nice wide area of effect buff. But then yeah, in terms of infantry, Orc Biggins or Savage Orc Biggins, both of them are going to be pretty solid here. I'm going to roll with the Orc Biggins just to optimize on cost a little bit here. And then, yeah, the Missile Cav, definitely a solid option. We're going to go with a couple different groupings. And then, yeah, we'll also grab the... Oh, that's too many. You're limited to 5 on ladder. That's right. Oh, no, that is 5. What am I doing? Anyway, and then from there, you can do some different things. Maybe more light cavalry. You could potentially take a couple Skulkers. Probably not a bad idea for the smoke bombs. More Night Goblins just to kind of fill out the ranks a little bit there. Let's see, missile infantry, you could take some Night Goblin archers to give you some cheap missiles, and Doom Diver might not be bad here. Hammer of Gork you could potentially try. It's a bit risky. If you were to cut some things, you could take the Arachnarok Queen. It is going to be a little bit risky, but potentially you can use those Spiderling summons to really good effect on some different units. So like say we cut one of these Biggins and one of these Gobbo archers, we could probably squeeze that in there. So yeah, you can use the Spiderling summons to help you shut down the CYGOR play, and then if you can wear down the Butchers of Kalkengard with your missiles, then the Ragnarok Queen can run over most other Beastmen units pretty effectively. So something like this might be pretty solid as well, but just kind of throw in some builds at you guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.